Today marks 80 years since Russians deported all Crimean Tatars from Crimea. But still, 80 years later, only 4 countries recognized it as genocide. Crimean Tatars lost their houses, cultural heritage and homeland just in one day. And to this day, we cannot restore justice, because Russians are still living in our houses, our language is still considered endangered, and what is worse, we cannot freely live in Crimea right now, because Crimea was occupied by Russia again in 2014. My entire family was deported from Crimea in 1944, one part to the Urals and the other to Uzbekistan. My great-grandmother Halide could not forget her life in the deportation as a kid. Even when she finally returned to Crimea, she recalled those terrible years with tears in her eyes. My ancestors were forced to live in internal camps in the Urals without a right to leave this horrible place. There was not a day when they didn't starve, and in addition they were forced to work, even children. In those places many people died every day because of lack of food, because of infections. Death was everywhere. This is how Russians wanted to destroy an entire nation, the indigenous people of Crimea. In the places of the deportation we heard the same thing over and over again. Crimean Tatars don't exist, you are just Tatars, and you are not the indigenous people of Crimea. And even now I receive such comments every day, mostly from Russians. But despite everything, we survived. We lost almost half of our population as a result of this deportation, but we came back to Crimea. My grandparents were born in Uzbekistan, as well as my mother, but they always knew that their roots are in Crimea. They never forgot Crimea, and this dream of returning home inspired them to not give up. And thanks to them, I was able to be born in Crimea for the first time in 3 generations of my family. But for the past 10 years, I'm forced to live in exile again, because Crimea is occupied by Russians. And Crimean Tatars cannot live freely there, because Russians cannot accept the fact that we are the indigenous people of Crimea.